Welcome to Meet the Voter, episode 18, Sunday, February 28th, 2016. Tonight on Meet the Voter, we have Jonathan Denwood, her socialist Christian Democrat from Carson City. We've got Sam Brooks, also our Democrat and our intern from Long Beach. We got Bob Phelan from Central California. He's to the right with me. And that's me, Bill Conrad from Reno, Nevada. I'm on the right, and got the left. Got a good mix tonight. We're going to bring Nick Hernandez on in about 10 minutes, Dr. Nicholas Hernandez. And there's so much to talk about. So we're going to talk about the primaries in Nevada and South Carolina. We talk about the Republican debate, Super Tuesday. And the last little bit we're going to talk about at the end is, should Apple unlock the iPhone? How's that?
Well, they need to unlock all your computers. You can't even get into your own gear.
I couldn't get into my Apple, not my Apple ID, but this week because I had to take. You know what I had to do? I had to go in the kernel. I had to erase the system and restart because it didn't recognize my computer as my Apple ID.
You didn't have to get hold of those Bulgarians again.
Yeah. Well. So anyway, let me go in first of all. I'm going to talk to Bob since he's our newest panelist and guest. Bob, what do you think of the two primaries, both Nevada and South Carolina this week?
I couldn't believe there are that many racists in Nevada to pick Trump, but it is what it is. South Carolina, I expected that.
Oh, well, you have 45%, 43%. And by the way, you're a Trump supporter, correct?
Well, as far as what's there, if it comes to Trump or Hillary or Bernie, oh, you betcha. Okay. I just want to vote for an American.
And then, so anyway, I was here in Nevada. I actually was in the caucus. I really enjoyed the caucus. Jonathan can attest to that. And Jonathan did the caucus the week before. We didn't cover that. But my caucus was kind of neat. I went when it opened at 5 o'clock. There were big, long lines. And you go into like the school. And then in each classroom, you have your precinct. And you go in your classroom and you meet your fellow people who live in your precinct. And they talk. You can actually politic in there. You talk about who you vote for, and it's really a unique environment. It's different, and it's run by the parties as opposed to the county recorder or the Secretary of State. So we did that, and out of the Nevada election, it was 43% Trump, which he took it by a mile. But what's really interesting is there was some move from the party. A lot of the volunteers were wearing Rubio stickers across the front and the back. And the party itself, a lot of the stalwart Central Committee party and Stanislaus were supporting Rubio outwardly during the caucus. You've never been in a caucus, have you, Bob?
Never.
They're pretty neat. I like them. They're sort of like a big town hall meeting where you can talk politics and vote.
Yeah, but I've seen the way that they do the count, and it doesn't really seem to be as accurate as it should be. And if you're going to use democracy or representative republic, you want to make sure you have accurate counts.
Karen verified the count in our precinct.
Well, I never knew the Republican Party was that interested in the voter count.
We are interested. We're interested in having Americans vote in Americans' elections. I realize that voter fraud doesn't mean anything to you, but what can I say? Most of you guys are frauds anyway.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, you care if the wrong people vote, as long as they vote for you. That's all you care.
I took my iPhone out and watched them count it. There is a lot of potential for people to scramble. And we had one ballot, but we made the decision who it went to because it had been scratched. And anyway,
is that your sex doll?
I got them both. Oh, that's she's a ball breaker right there, babe.
That's the person you play with. That's how
Actually,
if you're listening,
tomorrow's our 24th anniversary, so that's what I. But thank you for mentioning that.
Congratulations.
I appreciate it.
So Bob just held up Hillary Clinton.
It's IDM.
So anyway, let's get to the South Carolina, and we'll ask both Sam and Jonathan.
Sam looks like she looks puzzled already.
Why do I hang out with you guys?
I have no idea. Oh, he's off. Get Nicky, DB.
It was like the most misogynist, ridiculous doll I've ever seen. I know.
It's gonna get a lot worse. You should have listened to last week's discussion.
I should have said I was sick.
You can handle it when I'll decline to win when I bail out.
I didn't really start the clock today. I better start the clock.
Nick can have a good go at him.
Yeah, Nick can get the next turn.
Freaking idiot.
So, what do you guys think of the? Did you expect Bernie to get wiped out. I think it was 72-28.
Yeah.
You did.
It's not like it was the desired outcome, but it wasn't like unforeseeable.
I didn't expect the 28 to that big, maybe 60-40, but 28 to 72 I thought was quite large.
I wasn't. Well, kind of. It was kind of linked to what I saw in Carson City. I don't think it's quite. I just don't. I might be wrong about this because I haven't looked at the voting details in that. I think it's more the age of the vote. I noticed in Carson, the people that were voting for Hillary were older women mostly. A few older guys, but the bulk of the people that were voting for Hillary Clinton were over 50, and they were mostly female, where on my side there were a lot of women, but younger women with children, younger female students, a lot of women, but younger women, which was quite nice actually. It was, that's what I noticed. And I think where Bernie doesn't get a large vote out, I think he has problems. If he can get a lot of new people and get people out, I think he does okay. When he doesn't, he gets hammered. I don't know if you agree with that, Sam.
But we're talking about that spread being in South Carolina. Like Nevada was pretty close.
Nevada was really close. And let me tell you, the voter turnout though was very low in Nevada for the Democrats.
Yeah,
they had 120,000 show up for the presidential caucus 8 years ago, and they only had 80,000 show up for this.
Yeah, I couldn't really follow that, Bill, because I had to queue for almost 2 hours. I just don't. It was all a bit puzzling because literally, folks, they never seen such a crowd descend. They said it was the biggest crowd they've ever seen. And I had to queue for almost 2 hours to get in to do this caucus business. In
Carson City and Reno, they had pretty good turnouts, but in Clark County, they had very low turnouts in Boulder.
Yeah, the whole thing, I don't know.
But
here's a great link for the South Carolina.
I know they were all those awful reporters and Meet the Press are all croaking about the great victory Hillary Clinton had won. Mm-hmm. They were croaking on about. I don't really see it, but I'm a bit biased. But even if I wasn't, I just don't see it myself. But there we go.
I thought that she was going to do pretty well, not as well as she did in South Carolina. The black vote is very strong for the Clintons.
Well, no, I think it was the the older black
female
vote.
Sure.
You know, he just didn't get the people. He just didn't get enough younger people out, I feel. But what the reasons for that, I don't know, because I don't know South Carolina. Do you know it, Bill? Have you been there?
Oh, I lived in Savannah, right across the river from South Carolina. I used to fly.
What's it like?
It's deep south. It's the deep south. It's the deep south. It's like deep south.
And what does that
mean?
From my perspective, nice.
Like, not having actually lived there, but knowing, the impressions, the stories I've got from people who are from South Carolina, from stories about things that happened in South Carolina and so on and so forth, like not really at all surprised that in the Democratic Party, there would be a huge leaning towards Hillary Clinton. I mean,
well, why is that? Why is that, Sam?
Because it's the Deep South. So it's the conservative Democratic Party.
Oh,
yeah, right. It could be. They're actually the blacks and the social aspects are pretty conservative. Yeah, that's somewhat. Yeah. In the Democrats.
Well, I think that's a social political reality. And when you move into other states, you have, a further left leaning Democratic Party, and in these states, like in the South is where you're going to find the middle, quote unquote, which like really appreciate like Hillary Clinton's kind of like pseudo conservative Democratic position. So it's like they're like comfortable. Anyone in between the two parties is going to be more comfortable with her as a candidate, and that sort of thing.
It's not California. I agree with it. You said that's a good way to analyze South Carolina. It's definitely if you move inland off the coast, it's very poor though too. There's a lot of poor parts of South Carolina.
You mean like the rest of America after 16 years of quasi-conservatism? Do you mean?
I don't think we've had 16 years. I don't think the last 8 years were quasi-conservatism.
Chuck Bartok just said conservative Democrats' mindsets usually do not go along with the likes of Hillary Clinton, at least not in my neighborhood. I think, like, in response to that, the point would be the options. So if you're a conservative Democrat and you're going to choose a Democratic candidate, obviously you would need to choose Hillary Clinton, right? Because there really is no other candidate. So even if maybe she isn't in line with
well, there you go, Sam. If you want to go with a corporate criminal liar like Hillary Clinton, she's a cup of tea, isn't she?
Well, the sincerity, though, that some people don't see that is really alarming, because I have some people, some close friends and people like that who are generally middle-aged women who are, hardcore supporters of Hillary Clinton. And I've had this discussions with a few people about, my opinions as to why she isn't a suitable candidate and why Bernie Sanders would be a better one. But it's like they really just can't believe it. They really can't believe that Hillary Clinton is, a powerhouse of politics and money and corruption. You know what I mean? Like, no matter how much you try and give them certain information about, different things that have happened that should shed some doubt on her.
It's all made up by the conservatives. They made all this up. They're all this is fantasy. All the 16, almost 25 years of backhanders and corruption and dicey deals and that godforsaken foundation and a horrible husband. It's all the conservatives' fantasy, isn't it, Sam?
Yeah. Can I ask a question? Because Robert, something you said kind of just stuck out to me earlier. We were talking about besides your horrible doll, but besides that, when we were talking about candidates, I choose the Hillary Clinton, the sexist one. But we were talking about different candidates, and you were like, well, I'm choosing the only American candidate. And I was just wondering if you could explain that to me.
I was just to see if you were awake, Sam. I wanted to say hi to you. I said hi to you earlier, and I didn't know if you could hear me or not.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I didn't hear you.
Oh, that's okay. It's not a problem.
So what did you mean, the American candidate?
Oh, I was just putting a little bit of alcohol and sandpaper on Jonathan's backside to see if he was awake. He missed it, but I'm glad you caught it.
So
I didn't miss it. I chose not to respond to it.
Hey, my question is, why do 90% of African Americans support Hillary Clinton? What has the Democrat Party seriously done for the African American community in this country under Obama?
I think that the Conservative Party has done more for Africa, because I don't think anyone's done anywhere near enough of anything for African Americans. So I'm not going to argue
other than being the party that freed the Republican Party is, but what has what has President Obama done for the African American community?
I think that there's plenty of ideas of progress that we could point out, different programs and different, but I'm not in the party of thinking that we have done enough for African Americans, or I would call them black people, but
you're forgetting Sam, he brings hope.
Yeah. But what is the Republican Party doing for black Americans?
Well, I look at 50% unemployment in the African American, in the black community, the incarceration of blacks. There's no jobs in the black community. They're offering nothing except false hope. You have a false messiah that's been out there for 7 years, and Hillary Clinton offers more of the same. And I'm surprised when you keep pulling that football out from Charlie Brown. You figure Charlie Brown's finally going to wake up. The only person that's offering anything to the African American community
say something, Rob.
is Donald Trump.
There must be something wrong here, because I'm agreeing with you. I must be dreaming this.
Hey, we need to go to a break, and with that, Jonathan, you're going to come back later. We're going to let Nick in. And when we go to a break, we're going to come back. We're going to talk about the Republican debate.
I think you should drop out, so let me in.
I could drop out.
No, Bob.
No, I've got to go. I've got to see
the balance.
I've got to see Nick. I've got to see Nick's response to this.
Okay, John. Come on back later.
Cut me out, Bill. Let me back.
Okay, coming off the break, Dr. Nicholas Hernandez had a little bit of mic difficulties, so he's going to hold off until
I'm sorry, Bill. I know that was my fault.
It's all, and it's 100% Jonathan's fault. Off the left is losing tonight on the mic quality, but he has had better quality coming off his laptop, but it was distorted tonight. It can make a lot of difference in the building. But that said, coming back, we're going to talk about the Republican debate, and Jonathan's the only person that watched it live. I would have watched it live. I was actually at a Republican function, and I'm surprised that Bob didn't watch it. Watching a basketball game.
I watched part of it, but it's a garbage debate. The bottom line is Rubio's never going to be the Republican choice because of his defensive, quote unquote, amnesty. It's not going to happen. The only two choices are going to be Cruz and Trump. I mean, Casey doesn't have a shot, and so if it comes down to Trump or Cruz, it's going to be Trump.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from, because it was great comedy. It was actually seeing the party of Lincoln and Reagan implode on itself, literally in front of you, just kind of implode on itself. As a spectacle, it was just amazing. But as a political debate, it was pathetic, because they really didn't discuss anything of any substance.
Until you see Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, and hopefully they'll allow the debate to still go on when she's in jail. Make it just interesting, whatever. But I think that's going to be the interesting debate.
Well, no, I understand why you're saying that, but I actually think there are forces in the Democratic Party, like the vice president of the party, that are waking up, because they realise that Hillary would be destroyed by Trump, because there's just so much. There's a lot.
Biden is adult. He's adult. He's an idiot.
Who is?
Biden. I'd love to have Biden be the guy. Just like, I hear some people talk, well, maybe Romney's going to jump in. It's like, come on, man. Romney's not going to get in there. Nobody wants Romney. That's like we're in secondhand underwear. You're not going to put it on, babe. This is not going to happen. Romney's not a happening thing.
Well, we might. I'm sure you are.
I don't worry about it. It's okay.
Okay. Well, Sam looks shocked still.
Listen, I probably have more in common with Sam than I do with Bill. I mean, she reminds me of my daughter.
You should be really glad about that, Bill. I was really worried, but I think that's a great. You should be really happy about that, Bill.
When Sam and I talk, like I said, listen, when I was very young, one day, the first campaign I worked on was Hubert Humphrey in 1968, because they had prettier girls.
Well, I must look really old, because I'm a lot younger.
Oh, you are.
You're a lot younger than you. I'll be quite truthful about it.
I'm not younger. I'm 62.
Nearly 30. I'm not like.
No, you're. I have 10 issues older than you, Sam. But it's okay. It's okay.
I think I'm allowed to be an adult.
Let's get back to the serious business.
I don't want to be an adult, but the debate, I did not watch it. Would not watch it. It was just one of those things.
Bob, you're a Trump
Rocky Horror Mountain movie show.
You're a Trump supporter?
Well, of what's there. I'm Republican. I have to choose of Republicans. Like, what is
that's the funny thing.
Why?
But would you classify him as a Republican?
He's a Republican. He's just not a conservative. But again, I'm not a conservative. I'm a moderate Republican. Like, I heard you talk earlier about same-sex marriage. Okay, I don't believe in same-sex marriage, but I believe in civil unions. My son's godfather, born and raised in San Francisco, was a gay man in a committed relationship. My son's godfather. I couldn't care less. I'm born and raised in San Francisco, so the gay issue has never been an issue for me, and I don't think it is for most Republicans. I really don't. They just keep bringing it up because they think it sells.
I would say it's
how can you say that it's not an issue and in the same breath say that you're opposed to same-sex marriage? I mean, then that by definition makes it an issue, right? You have a stance.
Because marriage is between a man and a woman. Civil unions, I have no problem giving
like
all
Christian
the marriage, but a marriage between a man and a woman.
Like Christian marriage. Because that's what it says in the Christian Bible, which is what the moral compass that you're following.
I don't go throwing rocks at that. It's not a Christian thing. Marriage is between a man and a woman. I don't care if you're
in Christianity.
Heathens, Christians, Jewish, Muslims. Go tell a Muslim man that a marriage between a man and a man, and see how long you live in one of those Arab states. And that's what really surprises me is who embraces those Muslims.
But that's the whole point. That's what I'm talking about. I'm saying that like the moral compass
that
you're using,
I'm not a Bible person.
Legislation is that of religions, whereas we are supposed to have the freedom in this country to choose not to follow other religions and to have the ability to live like not under the shadow of those religious beliefs, like have them imposed upon us. You know what I mean? Like if, for example, we don't believe in those things.
Well, if I don't believe that a guy who's choosing which sex he is at the moment decides to go into a women's restroom because he says, at the moment I feel transgender, I got a problem with that. There are just some things that just make common sense, and it's not the religious aspect. Marriage is between a man and a woman. A civil union, if you really all you want is just the rights are there.
Give me a reason why a marriage is between a man and a woman that isn't linked to religion.
Let's see. What would that be? See, 2,000 years of history.
You are aware that homosexuality exists in human cultures since the beginning of time.
No, you mean
in ancient Greece,
homosexual. But that doesn't make the quote unquote the norm as far as for a marriage. I don't care what you do in your bedroom. That's got nothing to do with me. I don't care. But marriage.
I'm glad that you don't care what I do in my bedroom. But besides that, in terms of my rights, like your perspective on marriage is based on your religion, or it's based on that set of values. Why is it not okay to let other people have their own values when we're talking about common laws that govern people that are not of the same value system that you are?
Marriage between a 62-year-old man and an 8-year-old girl. Is that okay?
But there's plenty of reasons for pedophilia. There are reasons for pedophilia to not be acceptable that don't come from Christianity.
That's in the Muslim culture. So are you saying that Muslims are pedophiles? What are you saying? I mean, it's you either agree that a 62-year-old man should be able to marry an 8-year-old girl, or you don't. I don't. Call that religious, call it what?
I really got to intervene. When you start coming out of this anti-Muslim crap,
seriously,
you consistently this quasi-racist anti-Muslim crap that you constantly come out with, that's when you cross the line. That's when you really, and you keep.
That's where you go, Jonathan. If you can't defeat a man in his argument, you always call him a name. That's what you do, Jonathan.
You've got no argument. You just come out with these anti-Islamic statements consistently.
Is there such a thing as a marriage between a 62-year-old man in the Muslim culture and an 8-year-old girl?
Why Muslim?
Well, what other religion is doing it? What other culture is doing it?
Pedophilia are all over the world. This is not like a Muslim thing, right? Muslims are literally 23% of the human race. Do you know how? So many people from so many different countries with so many different practices. Like, it's really dangerous to stereotype people and throw them all together. Like my saying that everyone who's Christian wants to impose their religion on me and tell me I can't marry who I want, because a whole lot of Christians are okay with allowing me to follow my own value beliefs.
But I'm just saying, what's the problem with the marriage between a 62-year? What's the problem between a marriage between a 62-year-old?
Why are you trying to compare homosexuality and pedophilia, and then why are you not recognizing that's not okay?
Homosexual marriage 20 years ago.
You're saying that homosexuality and pedophilia share characteristics, and that's why you can go forth and use them as a comparison in this argument, and it's really offensive. I don't have sex with children.
If you're looking to be offended, be offended. I can't help you on that. I'm asking you a simple question.
I mean, it's like offensive to someone who cares about what you're saying. It's like in general could be offensive. I'm not offended. I don't really care.
Well, if you're not offended, good. That's great. What about is marriage between a 62-year-old man and an 8-year-old girl, is that acceptable?
Stop implying that something about my lifestyle is the same as pedophilia.
I don't care about your damn lifestyle. Is a marriage between a 62-year-old man and an 8-year-old girl acceptable?
Okay, once you can justify how that argument has anything to do with what we're talking about, then I'll answer your freaking question.
I said yes or no. That's a reality.
What is your argument?
My argument is right now, is that me feedback, Bill?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay, we're going to deviate for about 10 minutes here. We're going to do a 10-minute section, then we're going to go back on the topics. But we want to, instead of hitting the iPhone Apple unlocking issue, we'll do a 10-minute special on gay and lesbian civil unions and gay marriage, or just marriage open up to gays, because it relatively just happened this past year for the most part, didn't it, Sam?
It became legal nationally.
Nationally,
that's right. A lot of separate states had made it legal.
Right. Now it's recognized, and it's all occurred probably in the last. When was the first state that recognized gay marriage?
Oh, quite some time ago. It was. I can get you the number exactly, but first, it was a minute ago.
Okay, so going on, Jonathan, why don't you ask your question?
Yeah, because my sister is gay, and her partner died about 18 months ago. But about 5-6 years ago, they had a civil ceremony that is recognised by the British government, and it had all the trimmings of a wedding, and they considered it a wedding. And we all attended, and I flew back and I attended it, and we got the photos, and it gave them all the legal protection. And my sister and her partner were totally happy with the situation. But I do sense that this is a very important issue for the gay, lesbian community in this country. And I don't mean to be disparaging in any shape or form. It's obviously I just don't quite understand why it's so important to enter into an institution that's fundamentally in crisis, with divorce rates never so higher, and a lot of people considering that this particular institution of American and British society in crisis. I'm just puzzled why it's so important. It seems to be so important to the gay, lesbian community in America. That's the question I want to ask Sam.
So, I think first and foremost, one of the greatest disservices that we do, we all do it to each other, is and we ignore the complexity of people. So we put people in categories and we ignore their inherent infinite complexity. The reality is that gay Americans as a group, that represents an unquantifiable number of different perspectives, opinions, beliefs, and ways of living. Afterward, I think that for example, one thing would be, what if we were to take away the right for straight people to get married? We just decided to abolish the institution of marriage. I don't think anyone would be surprised that some people wouldn't be okay with that. So it's the same thing. It's like, you say that there's some kind of divorce. Marriage is a human institution. Marriage has been a human institution before the word marriage existed. Thousands of years ago, there were ceremonies bonding two people together. That was before Christianity, and that was before a lot of the ideas of government and things that we have today. So this is a human thing, not a religious thing, not a legal thing, not a political thing. Its foundation is about relationships between people. So if you want to talk about divorce rates and things like that, okay, but I personally I live my own life that's separate from, how other people might interpret the institution of marriage or what it might mean to them, or, it's feels totally irrelevant. There's a lot of divorce. So do you think that straight Americans wouldn't care if they weren't allowed to get married anymore because there's a lot of divorce? I don't understand.
I just feel, I was trying to listen really carefully. I'm not being disparaging, and no, I think you're trying your best, and I think what I sense part of what you're saying to me is it's seen as the exclusion has connotations. If people say you're not allowed to get married, it has the connotations of exclusion, that you're second class because you're excluded from it. And I actually can understand if it has that connotation and you're part of the gay, lesbian community, it would have that feeling that you're in a way a kind of second, because you're excluded from something that society still seems quasi-positive in a way, even that's declining, that it has the taste, the tang of you as an individual being a second-class citizen. So that's what. So I can understand.
Not that it's I'm not saying that this is what you're saying at all. I didn't find anything negative about your question, but it's sort of like issues of race in the past where it's a white person could have said, well, oh, you don't want to be a doctor or a lawyer, to a black person. Yeah, that's so much trouble. It could be what, you know what I mean? It's these kind of weird, and it's that's my choice. You know what I mean? And it's every individual's choice. I think if we really have separation of church and state, and that we're not being made to live by Christian value systems in this country. We really do have freedom of religion, and there's no reason why people of the same sex can't be married. And I don't understand why we can't allow for people to interpret that institution in a unique way, in a way that's specific to each and every person that enters into it. You know, we're not all going to see what marriage is the same way, where we all have different values and different lives and different relationships. You know what I mean? And that's okay. For me, it's okay. It's hard for me to understand why it's not okay for some people, like how my marriage is going to affect your marriage, kind of thing.
Should churches be forced to perform same-sex marriages?
Sorry?
Should churches be forced to perform same-sex marriage?
Well, I think personally, I'm not like, I believe that religion should have the right to practice their belief system. And so I don't think that a church should be forced to perform a same-sex marriage. I believe that there are plenty of churches in the country that want to perform same-sex marriages, you know? So for me personally, on either side of the aisle, I'm not about, you know, forcing things on people. You know, I'm really not. Like, I think that if one church wants to think that same-sex marriage is okay, fine. But my point is that the institution is so much more than that. And the laws that govern it are outside of those religious institutions of marriage, in my opinion. They're laws that govern a lot of people from a lot of different belief systems, and they need to reflect that, you know?
Right. Like I said, unfortunately, my fear, I think the fear of most people, I'll say my age, is that the churches are going to be forced to perform same-sex weddings, which is against, right now, the Pope may change his mind. Who knows? He's got a few more years left in him. But they're going to force churches to perform same-sex weddings, just like now they force some Catholic hospitals to perform abortions, even though they're adamantly opposed to that. So, you know, it's just, as you mentioned, it is a slippery slope. And why they use the analogy of a slippery slope is because there is such a thing as a slippery slope. That's why they use it.
It's a logical fallacy, as recognized by academia.
Sometimes it is what it is, and the truth is just the truth.
No, it's not.
Well, it is in your opinion. Opinions are like certain body parts. We all have at least one, and it doesn't make it
yeah, but we can recognize that as a people, we get to encounter each and every. I think that's the whole like conservative versus progressive thing. It's like conservatives are like want to hold back onto the past, and they're like, "Oh my God, the slippery slope. Things are going to change and change and change and change." And progressives are like, yeah, they're going to change, but it's not like we're not going to be there for every step of the way, deciding which ways we want things to change. But, you know, it's really the past versus the future. Like, I don't want to control anything about what you do with your life, you know, your personal life and stuff, as long as it isn't negatively impacting other people or myself.
As long as I accept what somebody else says I need to accept, and it's okay. That's fine.
Like, so I'm fine with you seeing, like, I'm in theory, I'm fine with your, like, you know, a marriage is between a man and woman, you believing that and you living that in your life. But once it starts making it so that I can't have my interpretation of marriage that I think is equally human and valid, then I have a problem.
Again, that's your interpretation at the time. And going back to that little story I mentioned about the older gentleman and the younger child, you know, right now, that's going to be his interpretation. And so this is on that slope. It is going that way. Or multiple wives.
And once again,
I don't know anybody would watch one.
Robert, like, I don't understand, as someone who claims to be some kind of like grayscale ally of the gay and lesbian community, like, seriously, like, you need to stop comparing gay people to pedophiles. It's not okay.
Well,
like,
you can jump in that.
It's not okay. It's not the same thing.
You grabbed the comparison because you want to be offended. I didn't say it was the same thing. I just said this.
But you made the comparison. So you're making the link, not me. I never brought up pedophilia.
Analogy. And again, Bill Conrad will tell you he was over in Afghanistan. They have marriage between 60-year-old men and very young women.
Dude, you're killing me.
You might not see it in this country, but it's there. Is it not, Bill?
Well, that's true in Afghanistan, but I'm losing connection now. Hey, I'm going to go back. I asked
you're
a question.
Basically, because you're Christian, everything you do, I'm going to compare with the KKK. Everything you do.
That's asinine. That is just borderline asinine.
It's the same sort of thing. It's not fair, dude.
I want to go back to an instant discussion. When did the U.S. federal government do anything about marriage? And I think I'm getting an echo. I think it's me. When did they first enact any acts on marriage? And I just did some research, and I think I know when. 1862
well, the first state was Maryland.
No,
in
no,
1972
Constitution.
or 1973. Yeah, I know, but you asked earlier.
No.
Remember which?
Let me say
was
real
it?
fast about the history. The federal government had nothing to do with marriage until 1862. And the first act was the Moral Anti-Bigamy Act, 37th Congress. And it was federal enacted, and it was sponsored by, I think, New Hampshire, or a guy from Vermont, Morell. And it was basically to stop bigamy in the territories against the Mormons in Salt Lake. That was the very first federal act on marriage, it appears. That the federal government was out of marriage. It was up to the states and local government. And then if you look back at the history, I was just thinking the history of marriage in the United States, it evolved from the Pilgrims, I would take it.
And then, Bill, there's like a really interesting question that someone had. So they asked me, what other variants on mixed gender marriage do you envision? So I'm sure you guys have plenty of interesting viewpoints on that.
The other thing, too, is I'm getting through here. You know, it was states did not allow people of race to intermarry. Right. And I'm looking at
what
one
are
of
your
those
views, Robert, what are your views on transgendered individuals?
It is what it is. God put your plumbing there. You can do whatever you like. I mean, I don't care. I really don't care. What I don't like the fact of, I have seen a few stories of men who say that they are women going into women's restrooms, and younger women, 12, 13, being startled by that. So
doesn't California allow that? I'm not sure.
Oh,
they've got some strange, they've enacted some things the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Well, right now there's something on the books that's the complete opposite of that. It's like the Bathroom Bounty Act. And so basically what they want to do is enable people to track down people using quote unquote the wrong bathroom and fine them and all this crazy stuff. It's ridiculous. There's literally not been a case of a transgendered person violating or harming another person inside of a restroom. There are literally countless cases of people being assaulted for going in quote unquote the right bathroom, especially when referring to like transgendered women going into male restroom and being beaten sometimes to death because, cisgendered appearing men aren't okay with the way that they present. So I don't know. I think it's like important. I'm not transgendered myself, but I do think that it's important.
Yeah. When was the last time
of marriage,
transgender male to female got beaten to death? When's the last time that happened? I haven't seen it happen.
You got a terrible echo again.
I'm going to recycle, see if it's me.
Yeah.
Robert, I'd be happy to give you plenty of stories on, for example, 2015 was the deadliest year in history for transgendered people in the United States, where for example, transgendered women of color in the United States live on average to be 35 years old in terms of the effects of homicide and suicide on that particular community. And then there's a lot of cases of transgender people being murdered or beaten afterwards. I can't tell you when was the last time that happened. Honestly, it's something that happens frequently, and we could probably look it up together if you'd like.
Well, I'd say are most of those people, as you mentioned, transgenders, they could be in a relationship. I mean, to me, and again, help me if I'm wrong, a lot of the murders with the transgenders are either if it is a drug related or is it just a normal thing, and I just, because I'm so old, I miss all this stuff. I mean, I want to be educated. Seriously, if it's that big of a problem, because I don't want to see anybody of any sex or preference get beaten to death because of the life choices they make. I really don't care. But if that is happening, we need to do something about it to make sure it doesn't happen.
Well, it's absolutely happening, but there's issues in this country, and especially when we're talking about mainstream media, that people are interested in and people aren't. So if you think of it in terms of intersectionality, where we have these different levels of, minority communities and oppression, basically the epitome of that oppression is the transgendered woman. So that means someone who is born male and is woman of color, because you have female oppression, you have transgendered oppression, you have, racial oppression, and then, probably socioeconomic status, for example. So it's the epitome of oppression, right? To be in that one community. However, we have a mainstream media that really isn't interested in crimes on people of color, for example, because they're anyone who works in the news will tell you that it's not interesting to viewers. The only kinds of crime that they really want to report about are things that happen to rich white people because it seems exceptional,
Oh, So Black Lives Matter, those are rich white people that all these people got all this information on, whether it was true or untrue, about as far as people being killed. That
was kind of the point of Black Lives Matter.
Stereotypical too of just saying, oh, it's just white people that they cover. Baloney.
No, what I'm saying is like that was like the point of Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter was talking about how police were harming or killing people of color and how it wasn't being talked about in some people's opinions, talked about enough in mainstream media. But you can like easily access many people in interviews who work in mainstream media that will tell you that there are no numbers, in viewers when they talk about crimes against people of color. It's something that's a lot less reported than crimes of when people are white and especially rich, like because it seems exceptional and sensational and more people want to watch it. Mm-hmm. So Black Lives Matters was kind of about that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But it was based upon the Michael Brown case, which we know is not true. There was no hands up, don't shoot. That wasn't true. Is that correct?
You think it's not true.
I know it's not true. The information's out there. It was a lie that he had his hands up, don't shoot, and everything. And the bottom line is he was in control of the whole situation.
But we both have our opinions about it, and that's fine.
No, you have your opinion. I have the facts. The facts show what they did with the hearing.
Were you there?
They expressed exactly what happened.
Were you there?
Most of these.
Because I've looked through the case files, I've read the court case, I've watched the videos, I've done everything. And if you weren't there, I don't think you can know what happened.
Those who were there and lied about it, who said he had hands up, don't shoot, and that was the undeniable lie. He never had his hands up. Never had his hands up. Don't shoot. And a lot of those are based upon false. There's a story that just came out. These 3 young black girls had claimed that they were beaten up by 12 people white people on a bus, and they called them the N-words and everything else. And then they come out with the film from the bus, and it shows that wasn't true. The only racial slur used was by one of the African American women, black women, and they started the whole thing.
Well, what about the gentleman who got stopped and because he's poor and he can't pay the fines in that particular area, and they've got a policy of using fines to gain taxation. So he decided he was going to do a runner because he didn't want to spend 2 years in prison because he couldn't pay his fines. And the police officer on camera puts about 12 bullets in his back. That's fine. That's fine.
The reality is that if your status quo, your vision of the world is that you really want to believe that racism isn't happening in a violent way by way of our police forces in the United States, and that's what you're going to think. And a lot of other people will disagree with you and say that the police force, not every police officer, not most police officers, but systematic racial oppression is taking place through the prison industrial complex and through the police of the United States, and it's costing people their lives. If you want to look back at the roots of policing in the United States, some of the first police functions was to track down and bring back slaves. And if you want to look at the effects of the prison industrial complex, of cops concentrating on poor black neighborhoods in the United States and things like that, and not think that that's, a problem, I don't know. But
I said the drug culture in the African American community is a terrible thing. I mean,
actually, the majority of drug users are white.
Yeah. Okay. Let's put it this way. Maybe they have enough money where there's not crime associated with the drugs they're doing. They're not committing crimes to get drugs.
Like if over time you have a concentration, you have this idea of let's go where the crime is. And so the crimes in the poor neighborhoods and the poor neighborhoods happen to all be of color. And you go there and you go there and you go there and you incarcerate people and you create different kinds of sentences of mandatory minimums for the drugs of people of color versus people who are white, et cetera, et cetera. You create the kind of situation that we're in today. We've completely crippled the community by way of the prison industrial complex. You've disenfranchised Black Americans to the point they can't even participate in our legal system. And you continue poverty, domestic violence, children in poverty, and so on and so forth. Like, it just seems obvious to me. I mean, do you know, like, the average...
Then please look at the cities back east in Detroit, Chicago, where all the murders are and where the murders are happening.
Yeah, but I'm kind of... But I would point out to you, a classic to me is Flint, where you've got a Republican.
If you let me Democrat. Everybody else is Democrat.
If you let me finish,
I'll
you
listen to this.
got a Republican. That's fair enough. You want to do that? You got
Can
a
I get my drink?
Republican. All right. You got a
Thank you so much.
Republican. You got a Republican governor who put in a non-elected quasar. I don't know what his title, manager, whatever it is, and makes a decision on a poor, mostly black city to save $6 million and poisons men, women, and children. And what amazes me, and I said this to Bill, is if that toe rag had done that in Nevada, and I think Bill would agree with me, if the governor of Nevada did that, he wouldn't get out of the state alive. Somebody would go round, knock on his door, and blow the bastard away. And basically, I don't understand the people of that particular state, why this criminal is still governor and he can still live in the state, basically.
Have you finished your piece, blaming the Republican? Have you finished blaming it? Are you finished, or what? You got more?
Well, are you the factual elements of my
The factual evidence is there's a Democrat mayor, whole city council is Democrat. The EPA had this information and did not even provide it. So why is the Obama EPA administration not having given these people the information? The infrastructure was the problem of the Democrat mayor and the city council who invested nothing in that. And then you're looking to scapegoat the Republican as the governor. Bill could tell you all policy and all government is local. The bottom line is, Bill, if this happened in Modesto, who'd be responsible for it? Governor Brown, or would the mayor of Modesto have been responsible for it?
The mayor.
Right. But of course, he's going to blame on the Republican governor who's got nothing to do with the whole system. And the EPA was no evidence that it was poisonous.
The mayor and the council would definitely be hung. All be kicked out.
Right, but the Republican governor, the EPA had this information and did not give it out. EPA should be charging this. And that's the Obama administration for not saying that this cannot happen in a community like this. But you want to blame the Republican. You're not looking for solutions. You're just looking for somebody to point a finger at. And of course, the Republican governor, you want to hang him. You want someone to go in and kill him.
Right. What? So are you fundamentally saying that it wasn't the governor's own manager that he put in place, and you say it was the mayor and the council, they no longer had any legal right or control over those decisions? It was under the direct control of a non-elected official, which your Republican governor put in. And and he chose, and he was advised, and it's been found, the emails, he was told that changing the water supply to the corrosive water of that river, there would be consequences, and he still chose to do it. So are you denying those fundamental facts?
Yeah, but actually, if you look at all the problems in the major American cities.
No, I'm not asking you that. The facts I've outlaid. The basic facts that I've outlaid, are you disputing those basic facts?
I don't know if he got the email. I know I heard what the EPA did. They didn't go forward with that information. I know that the bottom line is that the Democrats who ran the city got it so financially bankrupt that someone else had to come in and take over. So they run it down to the ground, and you blame it on the Republican governor. There's a lot of cities in this great country that are just going straight to pieces, and most of them are being run by Democrats who are the most corrupt people in the world. And you talked about Hillary last year where Bernie says, well, Hillary's bought and paid for. Maybe she's not bought and paid for, but like I said last week, she's on layaway. She's been bought and paid for. She'd probably be the worst thing for this country.
I wouldn't disagree with you there.
Besides Trump would.
Hey, real fast, just so you guys know, I'm big into facts. I ran research in the federal government for a while overseas, and I pulled up the DOJ's report, and you need to read the conclusion. And the DOJ, which was appointed by Obama, the whole investigation through the DOJ, just read the conclusion. They found none of the witnesses to be credible who said he had his hands up. In fact, they had found other witnesses that came forward. This is the DOJ. Read it. It's pretty interesting. That's the fact. That's why it dropped off.
You're still assuming that the establishment is credible.
It's second source. I mean, it's the best I can do. I wasn't there. But when I see the DOJ, which was appointed, I have to have trust in the DOJ. I have to not 100% trust, but they go into detail about the witnesses, not even being there. who came forward and different people. So it's the page 37, 38, and then go to conclusions. And that's the DOJ.
But that's the thing. Like, I've looked at the report, but
It's all, I
the
just
thing is
there.
that, like, I'm not saying that it did go one way or another way. I'm saying I don't know, and I don't trust the Department of Justice in this country, whether it was Democrat elected or not. So, I mean, personally, like, I think that if you want to look at, for example, the rate at which like black men are shot by and killed by police versus white men, that's enough information for me to know that there's a problem. If you
More
see
white
that,
men get killed by police than black men.
huh?
More white men get killed by police than black men.
Okay, but look at it this way.
Percentage.
So you have a rate per population, per that segment of the population. You can't compare the number because white men constitute a segment of the American population that's so much greater than black men. So the only like interesting thing to look at is the rate per that community, right? Because that's the rate per 100,000 and it's comparing on the same level. One group is a minority and there are far fewer of them than white Americans. So like, for example, the rate of incarceration of black men is 7 times the rate of incarceration of white men in this country. Afterwards, you could say that there are nearly the same number in jail, but that really is insignificant when you consider that the black community constitutes 10% of the American population. Then it becomes obvious how important that number is. There's literally almost the same number in jail, but one is about 50% of the population, the other is 10% of the population. Right?
Who's committing the crimes?
Huh?
Who's committing the crimes? And I'm not talking about just drug related, because obviously with marijuana and different drugs like that, the penalties on those are going to be really knocked down. But who is committing the violent crimes, the violent robberies, the murders? Who's committing those? Are the people in jail, are they being put there indiscriminately just because they're black and they don't want to have white criminals in jail? Or are these people in jail because of the fact they committed the crime?
So personally, like from all of the research that I've done in this, that I presented in, you know, important conferences in Southern California and stuff like that. But my opinion, based on all of the research that I've done, is that, you know, it isn't a question of who is, you know, crimes are being committed in all of these communities, but only people of color, by and large, are being looked for in these crimes. Does that make sense?
No,
because you have more drug use in, for example, in the white American community than in the black American community, but black people are the ones going to jail for the drugs. You know what I mean? You have violence in the white American community and the black American community, but black men are always the ones going to jail for it.
Yeah, I've looked at all these different malls where they've had the riots and that, and most of those little riots they have something in common. Have you seen any of those riots?
What riots? Like
one in a mall that they've had in the last year, 2 years.
Which riot? What are you
Take
talking
your pick. Have you seen any? Do you watch the news?
Can you give me a list of where you've been
fights and stealing
riots,
things?
quote unquote, in the last year?
Yeah, have you seen any?
Are you talking about Ferguson? Because that was one.
I'm not even talking Ferguson, because Ferguson, that was supposedly a reaction because if I lived in Ferguson and I thought that this guy had his hands up, don't shoot, if I was lied to, I would have been so pissed off, I would have been out there with them. But then you find out when this is all over and all the damage done to the community, and nobody's.
So you're talking about like yesterday in Anaheim when the KKK stabbed 3 people about a half an hour from my house?
You have 4 KKK
talking about those riots?
That's nothing. The 4 KKK guys. No, I'm talking about when you have like 50 to 300 kids.
Now, Sam, I heard that there's a crime wave right now in Santa Ana, California. That's secondary. Just talking to my sister, she said right now Santa Ana is really bad shape compared to that incident. And it's Latino gangs on gangs. There's 2 gangs there apparently.
I don't understand what you mean compared to that incident. Like, what are you comparing? One is an event that happened at one point in time in a certain way, which was, a protest that was going on. And then you have crime rates in the city of Santa Ana, which is
you talk about prisoner rates though. And I asked my sister what she thought were the cause. This is just notional. There's no scientific behind this. And she thought, they were saying that the lack of 3 strikes you're out. We had that discussion. You missed it, but we actually had, I wish I'd invite him today. We had a correctional officer on the show.
I don't.
Remember?
He makes Bob look like a liberal.
There you go. It's okay by me. Put a ship on the bar before me. Prop 47, AB 101.
I like
just
you, Bob,
a turnstile.
I think you're not, Bob's not that bad.
No.
Bob's trying.
He's trying.
Here's a list of the Santa Ana gangs, just on side note. But I mean, there's some big problems with gangs in California. That's for sure.
Well, that's a newbie, isn't it?
Are they white
It's funny
gangs
because,
still?
like, in terms of racial manifestations of violence, when you separate it by different racial communities, in minority communities, the history of violence, at least in terms of arrests for violent crimes, is really responsive to the rate of poverty. So, for example, the rate of crimes committed by Black Americans in nearly all categories has dropped by about 50% since the year 1980.
Can I say
Can I finish real quick, Jonathan?
Yeah, sure.
At the same time that poverty in that community has gone down by 50%. It's still 3 times that of white Americans. But however, then you have like the white American community where the arrest for violent crimes has actually increased while the poverty for the community has decreased.
Can I say something about that? Actually, I do understand where you're coming from, Sam, and I'm not saying that poverty doesn't have a strong linkage to the amount of crime you might have in the area, but I also dislike it intensely as well because it classifies in a way. It's a bit linked about what you said about marriage and about it being that lesbians and gays being excluded from marriage and the connotation that has. And my parents came both from very, very poor areas, one from London and one from Northern England, from almost grinding poverty. But there wasn't crime. There was, there wasn't. There was a certain level of crime linked to poverty. But this idea that poor people, because you're poor, you necessarily got to choose crime and violent crime as a way of trying to improve your position and your lot. I find that a little bit disturbing, and I find a lot of so-called progressives that utilize that language, I find it, and I don't mean this as a personal attack, Sam, but I do find it slightly annoying. I find it distasteful. I find it classifies that if you're poor and you're in the poor area, that you've got no choice.
You have no.
You're just going to go out and rob somebody. I think stupidity, ignorance builds up through poverty.
Okay, so, but like, what I think is kind of like silly is like you interpreting that argument. So it's like, just because you say that there's a link between crime and poverty, which we know, doesn't imply that every person that lives in poverty commits crime. We're just acknowledging the reality. Afterwards, I think that the reason that, for example, some people are a lot more likely to commit crime comes from the institutionalized oppression of those people. So, for example, if you, I believe that we all have a really strong drive to be accepted in the society in which we live by the people around us, and we have a strong drive to advance, right? So if you take a community like the Black American community, which has been systematically oppressed in this country for like 300 years, and really just cut from underneath in terms of, never not having education, the majority of, the heads of households of their community at this point being incarcerated, for example, or things like that, these things that weaken the community over time. It's my belief that people respond to those sorts of things, like not being able to succeed in the middle of society and the overarching society, by creating new systems that they can succeede in. So a lot of that, like, for example, has to do with subcultures, like gang culture can be seen as a subculture. So it's like,
I do see where you're coming from, Sam, but I also think community, and I'm not being disparaging and playing down where economic forces and history affect communities, but also communities have got to help themselves. The leadership of those communities got to show community and not just sell out to the establishment. And I actually believe that in a lot of Black communities, the actual middle class in Chicago, in other areas, the middle class of those communities are actually more racist than their white oppressors in a way, and actually have turned their back upon their fellow community members in a more gross and unfair manner than what they see as their white oppressors.
Well, that comes from like systematic oppression theory. It's basically like you can look at anything. You can look at the oppression of women. You can look at the oppression of basically like the way that you successfully oppress a group of people is to make them oppress themselves eventually. Like it's too much constant energy and action to actively oppress someone. But if you take a community, you just cut it down from underneath, like for example, by enslaving Black Americans and then, you know, pushing them out into the American world with no education, no like solid financial, no rights and things like that, then the community eventually begins to believe the story and oppress itself. You know what I mean? So there's definitely issues.
But didn't Dr. King say this, that fundamentally unite for your churches, for your community organizations, and through unity and through non-violent resistance, you obtain equality. You don't go around mugging people with knives and killing them, do you?
There's this really like nice like white storyline where we like to like highlight certain parts of Dr. King's speeches and work, which usually comes from the beginning and the middle of his life and career. And towards the end of his life and career, he was beginning to completely question the notion of nonviolence. He was beginning to question whether or not Black Americans could succeed within this like white oppressive system and whether or not people needed to be more radical. You know what I mean? So, I mean, like I'm kind of more in line with—
I must disagree with you there. I agree with almost 90% of you just said. I think he questioned that you couldn't have real equality unless you dealt with the social and also the amount of money that was being spent on the Vietnam War.
You read like
I have, Sam, and I don't think Mr. King ever said that violent revolution was going to really lead.
I didn't say that.
And I don't think he ever turned his back on non-violent social disobedience and the community coming together.
I didn't say that.
Well, you seem to be questioning that he was questioning the his core principle of non-violent resistance. Yes,
he began to wonder if it was the most effective route towards the end of his life. Just like prior to that, he was, aligned with, the idea that if you could get the white community and the Black community to work together, then that was the way that we needed to progress. And towards the end of his life, he began to question whether the liberal whites that were a part of the movement could really ever surpass their own inherent racism and tendency to oppress the Black American community. Like the end of
whites still oppress the Black community. I mean, look what they've done. Like I said, 7 years through Obama, absolutely nothing done for the African American community. You make people dependent upon government for every little bit you get, and they're guaranteed to support you. And that's the only reason they're supporting Hillary Clinton, because they think that that's where we're going to get something for us. And it's just not right. What we need to do is we need to put a lot of focus on the African American community, train the people there to do jobs. 50% unemployment for these African American youth. What are they going to do? They can't get a job. And I have to ask you, are you a beneficiary of white privilege?
Of course.
Okay, just checking. I thought you were.
And the point.
That is the point. She comes to the point if she has this white guilt about everything.
I don't think Sam's got any guilt about it.
I feel it. I just asked her the question. Do you feel white privilege, Jonathan? Have you ever felt that?
I'm privileged, but I don't feel guilt about it. No. Yeah. It is what it is. It doesn't mean I agree with it, but I
want to see society how it should be. The military, it's merit-based. What you do is what you become.
Oh,
I think Bill will tell you a slightly different story than that.
No, I would say in the military, it's definitely merit-based. I would say there's not almost zero. So minor. It's at the lower levels, possibly within the ranks, and there's always personal. We all have filters, but the military system of promotion, if you look at it, has been pretty consistent with the leadership, the higher leadership. Vince Brooks, my classmate, 4-star general, Black. His dad was also a general. It's a pretty good balance. It's at the higher level ranks. it's pretty well balanced out proportionally to the American population.
Yeah, but like, I mean, like whatever. I mean, Robert, like the thing with like white cisgendered heterosexual men, like being like always like privilege. What is this privilege thing? Why can't everyone just pull themselves up by their bootstraps? It's like, please don't even talk. Like you're not a part of any community that has any difficulty
I
whatsoever.
never thought I'd defend. He's quite capable of defending himself, but I never thought I'd do this, Sam. But honestly, I don't think Rob was actually saying that.
Yeah, he's talking about guilt, feeling privilege. Like, you know, like, do you feel, so you don't think you have any privilege? You don't think by virtue of being a white heterosexual man that you have any kind of privilege?
No.
He just likes cats.
I go like Jonathan. I said we're both from poor backgrounds. And so you know what it's like when you get out there and you earn. Do I see the fact that African-American black communities, there is oppression, and the fact that the Great Society from the 60s created by the Democrats to keep more African-Americans actually in slavery? Do I think that's the problem? Yes. Did it turn 90% of the black families who used to have a stable family into single-parent families? Yes. Has the welfare society helped destroy this country? Yes. We need to give people and make them, as far as for receiving benefits from the government, there is dignity in work, whatever it is. But if you receive a benefit, you should volunteer, whether it's with the Red Cross. I don't care with who, whether you clean in front of your house. If the three of you are paying benefits for me, I should give something back and not be expecting people to give me something.
Doesn't have anything to do with like not acknowledging that certain people have opportunities that other people don't. And if you can't acknowledge that, if you can't acknowledge like the bias that takes place within our society, its institutions, its groups, etc., then I just don't see how you can come from a positive place.
Del Curry's son has a benefit. His father was a basketball player. Steph Curry's the greatest basketball player in the world right now. He's an African American. He had that physical trait to get things done. If you look at the NFL, again, merit-based, very few white athletes are in there.
Cannot use exceptions and then like in contrast with all of the knowledge that we have about what a huge community of millions of people is experiencing, and then say, well, look at Obama, he's fine. It's like you can't do that. Like when the vast majority, when a community is experiencing levels of incarceration 7 times that of the white American community, or poverty 3 times that of the white American community,
thank the Democrats.
And then you point to exceptions like that. It's so like
you created it. You put them in the box. Democrat principles put these people in the box.
See,
they're the ones who put them on the quote unquote new plantation.
What are you talking about?
These are your voters. These are your voters. The more people become dependent upon government, they look to the Democrat Party to get anything done.
See, this.
They're the current slave owners, the Democrat Party.
Oh, give us a break. Give us a break. But this is the bit that always gets me going, Bob. Actually, when you start actually saying something, I actually think, well, he's starting to talk some sense. And then you go on to this Democratic rant that blaming the Democrats for everything.
Yeah, like
what I've got to say to you, Bob, is
if you blame Republicans,
the Republicans did their fair share of.
I actually don't even blame Republicans. I blame freaking white men who like run the world at the expense of minorities and women, like, and have since literally the beginning of civilizations, for the institutions that we have that hurt different groups in our culture.
There you go, Bill. It's all my fault completely.
That's right. It's the white guy's fault because you're white.
I know it's all my fault.
This country
ridiculous. If you can't lift yourself up,
made on the backs of slaves in order to serve white land-owning Protestant men, not women. Women couldn't vote. Women couldn't own land. Minorities couldn't vote. Minorities couldn't own land. And like, you want to ignore that all of that is the foundation of the society that we live in.
That's not the foundation. That's the past.
World.
That's the past. Slavery is still
for you.
In effect slavery is still in effect in a lot of parts of this world. Slavery is.
You can't. 1 second ago, you were acknowledging that the prison industrial complex is the new form of slavery.
No. I said the projects where people are housed, basically in inner cities.
That's another
all
one.
This crime and everything else is generated.
Say that obviously slavery didn't have any effect on our society today, just like patriarchy didn't, so on and so forth. Because like, then in that case, what is it? Is that Black Americans are just less don't want to succeed. It's just that they're not gonna, that they're creating these problems within their community. They didn't come
Democrat
from anything.
Democrat
300
policies.
years of oppression.
Democrat policies help create the situations we're in.
Oh, please.
They-
Okay, so
come
but
on,
where's the
Fred.
They've done
point?
nothing to elevate
Come
the
on,
African
Fred.
American.
Oh, well, you can come
But where's
out
the
of that.
point where racism and then segregation and then just, racism in society stopped affecting Black Americans, and they all of a sudden had this clean slate of equal opportunity and foundation of education that they could jump off of, but then the welfare state came in and ruined that? When did they ever have the same opportunities that white Americans had?
If you want to be a victim, be a victim. If someone from 300 years ago had slavery,
You know what that argument says? Be a victim, like all these people and they're just being victims. It's that you obviously don't know what it's like to be in a position where someone takes your power away, because you're not a part of a group that experiences that. You're not a part of you're not like when people talk about, rape and, stop being a victim, don't have a victim mentality. It's like, you don't know what it's like to have someone literally be stronger than you so that you can't win that, because of the position that you hold in this world. And it's really unfair. And it's really, I think, like a lack of empathy and consideration for how other people's experiences are different than yours.
everybody has different experiences in life.
Do you think anyone's
Everybody
running
has
around? Come on, dude. We're more similar than we are different. You know what I mean? No one wants to not succeed. No
And
one
then let me
wants
go back to one of the first
No one
questions
wants
I
to-
asked. What is president? Who's got the feedback, Bill? Is it you still?
Hey, Bob, I'm going to recycle. Just completely turn off your browser and recycle. Go up in the top hand left and a little circle and hit the browser. Recycle.
So you're going to let Nick come on for a second?
California Republican Assembly endorsed Ted Cruz.
Quiet a second. I know who the California. That's different. Quiet.
Yeah, it's quite different. I think
Quiet,
that right
Bob,
now
quiet
that
for a second. I got to find this.
got to
Okay.
find what people are
Bob, quiet
afraid.
for a second. Let me.
Okay.
Okay, we're coming off our last break. This has been an interesting Meet the Voters. Folks, you'll have to go back and watch the whole video, because we went into topics that I couldn't even imagine going into today because we're going into the campaigns. So we're going to finish up. I'm going to ask Bob a question, since he's connected into the Republican Senate in the California. He is in all the high-end muckety mucks in California who are Republicans. He's right there. Now, let's not get the California Republican Assembly confused with what is the establishment Republicans thinking in California right now. I want to ask that question. I want to talk about Super Tuesday with everybody, and then your forecast, and that'll be it for tonight.
Establishment Republicans hate Donald Trump. Establishment Republicans hate Ted Cruz. Establishment Republicans don't know where to go. They don't.
Well,
know
you're
where to turn.
establishment Republican. You're in that California group of.
Well, I'm the kind of group.
What's the party doing?
Well, the party's not. They're really concerned. They're afraid that in this state of California, and Sam will attest to that, if you say that you're against illegal immigration, then you're a racist. It just is what it is, and he will not be. Trump will not be accepted in the state of California. This is a Democrat state. It's going to go to Hillary or Bernie, whoever runs anyway. So, but the establishment hates what's going on in our state, or hates what's going on in our country.
Yeah. Let me talk to one point that happened in the caucus here. The Bush organization, the secretary of the county Republicans, the Central Committee, son was one of the managers for Bush. And then the whole Bush establishment went over to Rubio. And during the caucus, Rubio did a really good job of campaigning, because he had both Rubio and the Bush people campaigning for Rubio in the caucuses. And he did better than expected. So that's what the establishment did here, Rubio.
Well, the establishment's looking for anybody to run to take out Trump. I mean, if they had to, like I said, dig up John McCain again, if they had to dig up Mitt Romney, they go for anybody, because it's all about power. This is where I agree with Bernie in a lot of ways. Washington has way too much power. They need to get their backsides kicked by either the Democrats or the Republicans. But what's going on in Washington is unacceptable.
Right. Okay, well, let's finish up here. Let's talk about Super Tuesday. The election could be over next week with both Hillary and the Republicans. If Trump does really well, Super Tuesday done. Well, how well does he have to do to have it done?
Well, can I say?
Yeah, go ahead, John.
I consistently, and people can listen to the previous shows, I've consistently said that nothing would stop Mr. Trump. Mm-hmm. And I think everything is too late, Bill. I think he's going to have a fantastic Super Tuesday. I also like to point out on Meet the Press, they asked him about one of his tweets where he actually quoted Mussolini. It's better to live one day as a lion than 1,000 years as a sheep. Obviously, he didn't Twitter that out himself personally. He has people that do that for him. But he is unstoppable. When it comes to Hillary, I think that Hillary would like to think it's over and finished with. I think she's deluding herself. I think most progressive Democrats totally despise her. Absolutely hate her guts. I do. I would consider voting for an honest fascist like Trump rather than that evil woman which she is.
Bob, pull up the Hillary doll and show the viewers, all the other viewers.
Yeah, but you got me last week when you called me a fascist because I'm not as well educated as you. Like I said, I'm just a working guy, blue collar Republican.
Well, you're a quasi-fascist. That's what you are.
It says a fascism, a way of organizing a society in which a government ruled by a dictator controls the lives of the people, and in which people are not allowed to disagree with the government. That's what we have today in this country. So what's the difference?
Well, we got corporate fascism. With Trump, we got classic pseudo-fascism.
And so with Obama, what do we have? Again, who's done nothing to help the African-American community? But why do you don't even have to ask?
Say that Obama's done nothing to help the African-American community. You need to stop.
Okay, what do you do?
The number of policies and things that have a lot of people would argue the Affordable Care Act was extremely helpful to the African-American community.
No, it wasn't.
There's a million issues. Are you aware of every single policy decision that Barack Obama has made since he took his presidency?
What policy, Sam? He's done nothing. He's done nothing for the black community. Zero.
I disagree.
I want to do forecast real fast for Super Tuesday. I'm going to start with forecast this time. I think Hillary has got it. She's done even more so than Trump. I'm not sure that Trump is 100% yet. He's got to get. I think he might not get enough votes to make it to the convention. Hillary, on the other hand, has got it. She's got those super delegates, and she's got the South. This is going to be a huge move for her. She's going to just take it. But remember, what's out there is the FBI investigation with 100 FBI agents investigating the State Department. And talking to my classmates out there, the talk is that there's like 20 or 30 State Department people may be charged. That's the NitNet talk. That's just a guesstimation, people talking. So there's some weird stuff going to happen. I can't figure that out. Obama knows so much more than we know. He's going to have an inside look, and he's part of the Democrat machine along with the Clintons. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Sam's got to get running. So Sam, what do you think is going to happen next week?
Yeah, thanks, Sam.
I really believe in I don't know how it's going to happen, but I really believe in Bernie Sanders. I think we're going to win. I think we're changing hearts and minds all over America. It's a tidal wave of progression.
Birdie.
You can't be of the past. If you're of the past, you can't. It doesn't matter what little fights you might win along the way. You're never going to win the war because you're of the past and you're done. And the future is coming, and the future is different.
Jonathan, you give yours, and I want to bring in for a couple seconds to introduce at the end. I want to bring in Craig to introduce him to Sam.
Well, right. Do you want me to? Oh,
go ahead.
Basically, I understand why you're saying that about Hillary, but I think in the South, it looks like she is. It's her last hope, really, the South, But the basic thing is politics is about money, which you know, Bill, and most of her supporters are topped out, where Bernie's got unquenchable source of money. So if he can get Texas and get some of the other states, I think he still has a really good chance of. And also, I agree with her. I think her problems about the email and all the rest of it are going to bite her on the arse, basically. So I don't think it's done and finished with.
It's crazy.
I think she likes to think it's done and finished with, but I think she's in a bubble. Where I totally disagree with you, Bill. It's done when it comes to the Republican. It's done and finished, Bill. It's Trump. I think, but I say that. But I say that I think there's forces in the Republican Party that cannot accept him as the candidate, and I think, just like in the 1860s, in late 50s, it could result in the Republican Party fracturing into two new parties, because I think there's a subsection of the Republican establishment that cannot accept him as a legitimate candidate, Bill.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy. Like I said, I'm not sure that he's going to get enough going into convention. That's just my forecast. If I had to guess, it's going to be close.
He's slaughtered. He's slaughtered. How many states does he have to win before he realises it's done and finished?
Well, no, Tuesday. If he doesn't do Tuesday, it could be all over Tuesday for both parties, other than the legal issues. Then what will happen next is the third party run by somebody to screw up the Republican Party,
or someone to screw up the Democrat Party. Because to me, like I said, I think the Democrat Party and the Republican Party have exactly the same problems right now. You have populists on both sides.
Yeah.
Both parties, 40% in the middle, are sick and tired of what these guys are doing.
But the populists are winning in the Republican Party. They're not winning on the Democrat Party because Hillary Clinton is not a populist.
Well, no. I'm saying Bernie Sanders is. And what I'm saying, I think for the Democrat Party is corrupt, because I think those super delegates, if they weren't set up the way they are, I think Bernie would have a shot at it. That is total corruption on that.
I agree.
And I think if he does get indicted, you see Joe Biden jump in because they're going to be so afraid of Bernie. They're looking for someone to, if she has to go, to put in there. I see a Joe Biden going in there. I mean, and I know that's my feeling too.
I think that's going to happen. I've said Joe Biden from the get-go. Hey, with that, is there anything else we need? We didn't talk about Apple unlocking the iPhone. We'll have to wait till next week, because that's a good discussion in itself. That's a big thing. The unlocking or forcing.
Hey, you know what we should do? We should try to have an awesome person of color come on and talk about a little bit more about racism and racial issues in the United States, rather than a bunch of white people talking about it.
Well, I hate to tell you, white is a color. Whether you like it or not, get over it.
Bob.
Keep your white privilege to yourself, dear. I don't need it.
Hey, Bob was with me on council when I said something that was not negative at all.
I have nothing but love for you, Robert.
Remember about the Hispanics? The Hispanic issue?
Got to say reason. So he says nice things, then Sam, and then he comes out with a one-liner like that. You don't know what to say, really.
Wouldn't that be fun though? We have some nice racial representation on the show to talk about racial issues.
Hey Sam, don't leave. We're gonna finish up. Say goodbye, everybody. Stay on for a couple seconds. Jonathan, I want to bring on for a second.
He always
Craig.
wants to cut me out, doesn't he? He always cuts me out.
Jonathan, the show's over for the podcast, but we're going to be on for a few more minutes. Stay on, Jonathan. Stay on, Bob. I want you to meet Craig. Craig, come on up. I want you guys to meet Craig. 31 years of 37 years, I think, in law enforcement.
Yeah.
And we had a show that you weren't on, and we came up and talked about incarceration. I think Nick was on. Hi, Craig.
Hi, Craig.
You missed. We had a good discussion on incarceration.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Bob,
it was wonderful, really. I totally enjoyed it. I'd still be doing it if I wasn't as old as I am. So,
how old are you? How old? He's younger than you and me, Bill.
No, I don't know. It was about. He was.
I see myself. I had to get rid of my halo. I didn't want you all. I got enough halo on this video that I want you to think I'm an angel or something. But
how many years law enforcement were you? 37 or something like that?
37 total. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what was your experience?
Sam,
I mean, I know you're.
Sam, I do have a friend.
Sorry.
And it's been a great career.
My little kitty cat.
We'll bring on the issue of incarceration again, probably after the elections, after this gets over, and we'll bring the color of. We need to bring someone from the other side on representing all Black Lives Matter. We need to have someone on who's a good spokesperson.
You know what you should do, Bill, is you should just let me track down some cool different people to have come on the show from different communities and stuff. Because we can get more women, we can get more people of color, we can have lots of different perspectives. It'll be so fun.
Yeah, no, we'll do that. But the election's going to be pretty much over in the next 2 weeks. The primaries.
Yeah.
The big until the convention.
Make America great again.
Hey, show Hillary
Great
again.
for who?
When we had all those people on Blab, you should have brought Hillary back up.
Okay, so with that, I'm gonna go, guys. Okay.
We're going to be leaving here in a second too. Thank you.
Okay. Bye.
Have a nice night.
You too. Oh, I'm sorry,
Take care,
wait,
Sam.
Bill.
Craig,
How do I make myself like not be the host anymore?
I'm going to do it. I'm just going to kick you out. Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Just let me do it. Okay,
Bye, Sam.
Craig. There's Jonathan. He's come back. Craig, we're going to talk a few more minutes. We want to know your forecast. What do you think is going to? First of all, tell us about the caucus real fast. What do you think about the caucus here? Did you hear my analogy about how the Bush people went under Rubio?
Awesome.
Huh?
Everybody I've talked to about the caucus loved it because they just love the interaction. They come in there and they see their neighbors. They get right into a room, a classroom at the school, and they're in there with their close neighbors.
Yep. Talking
and
politics.
Find out what their neighbors are talking about, what they're thinking about, And it was awesome. It's so,
Bob,
cool to do
the
that.
caucuses are cool. It's like old type government. It's your neighbors in your precinct talking about who to vote for and convincing each other.
At a primary,
and then voting.
You can't even have a sign, in a primary 1,000 feet from the polling place.
Well,
you can't talk about
Yeah, but the caucus are in the room with you from your precinct, just a hand, 20, 30 of you.
Yeah.
Did you know?
Or when you're standing in line, you're standing with everybody, and you can talk all about it. You can wear signs on your body.
The volunteers had the Rubio stickers across them, the front and the back.
Yeah.
One guy had it on his head, Rubio. The Bush people went to Rubio. The whole Bush establishment here, on the Central Committee, the folks went to Rubio.
He knew how to do it. He knew how to caucus in Nevada. I didn't. I mean, I was for Cruz, but I didn't wear a Cruz sticker.
No.
Cruz
did not manage the caucus well. You should have stickers all over the place. They should have somebody handing them out the front of all the caucuses.
Stickers
I
don't
wonder where the volunteers were.
It makes a difference, Bob. I saw the Rubio thing. People who don't get it, who just like decide when they get there and they see a bunch of Rubio stickers all over the place. I saw it firsthand in my primary, in my precinct.
So you all stand up there and say, this is who I support?
Yeah, you can wear stickers on your front, on your forehead, on your back. You can put stickers all. You can carry signs.
You can
speak.
To me, that's intimidation at its finest.
It's a fantastic cat.
It's good. It's real politics, and
it's a handsome beast, isn't it? It's a handsome beast, isn't it?
Bob, you've never lived politics till you had a caucus.
It's
and you can sign up
finest. It's
become a delegate, you really learn the process at a caucus. I mean,
I love it.
I never knew until I got involved with the party. And when you come to a caucus, you are involved. You learn that, wow, I could be a delegate. I could be a delegate to the convention. I can actually determine who's going to be the party leader. It's cool.
I like being able to vote without anyone else knowing where I voted.
These caucuses are cool.
Well, you can
they're cool.
Do that. I mean, when you get your ballot, you can sit there in the room and you can pretend like, oh yeah, I'm totally for Rubio, and you could vote for Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, but a lot of people vote and show it. A lot of people just hold it up, vote and show it. You don't have to show it, but you vote and show your and then we count them. And then Karen was got to be a witness. Did you stay at the end? I went to the first part and then I went to the end with Karen.
I was there the whole time because I was volunteering, but I was mostly in the main room where we were checking people in.
You didn't have any stickers on, did you? No Cruz stickers or anything?
No, I didn't.
Rubio people have stickers on?
I should have, because those Rubio people were everywhere.
Rubio, that was the state. That was like the insiders and the Rubio guys.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing. He's in the equivalent. He's in the CRA. It's called the Nevada Republican
Assembly. The Washoe County Republican Assembly.
All
the Nevada
Trump's
Republican Assembly.
They're all toast.
The Republican Assembly here, Bob, is bigger than California.
They're all finished.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, Trump's gonna win. I totally think he is too.
Yeah. Do you think Trump Tuesday?
Although he's going to win the primary, but I don't know if he'll win the election because the Republicans looks like such childish idiots.
I think he will. I think a lot of Democrats are going to vote for Trump.
Make this totally clear to people before I say the next thing is that I consider Donald Trump to be a classical black shirt fascist of the highest level, but he stands at extremely high chance of not only winning his own. Well, he's not really a Republican, but winning the Republican election. And then I think he stands a really high chance of winning the election because he's the only candidate apart from Mr. Sanders that's prepared to talk the language of the majority, who are extremely fed up and frustrated with the corrupt and also suicidal economical policies of the elite. And he is the only one apart from Mr. Sanders that verbalizes those frustrations. All the other candidates here and also the other Republicans are totally silent.
Immigration's the issue.
I don't think there's a silent on that.
Immigration's the issue. Only two people talking about it, and Donald Trump jumped on it right off the bat.
I saw again. I'm looking at polls, and I'm one of the guys. I know somebody who works for Gallup pretty well, so I listen to the Gallup report each week now.
I actually disagree with you there, Bob. The reality is that 50% of the population of this country, if they had a $400 bill, they haven't got any savings or no way of paying that $400. Right. 50% of the population haven't got the economic resources to pay that bill. And as far as I'm aware, the Democratic establishment in the Democratic Party and also the Republican establishment they're living in a total bubble, absolute bubble.
We all agree. That's why we're so torqued off.
That's why Obama done the last 7 years.
The lobbyists.
Yeah, the Republicans we elected Republicans and they did nothing against Obama.
All you have to do is go to CPAN and watch their programs and watch the interviews of those freaking politicians in Washington, the same thing really. Basically, they're in a total, utter bubble. Absolute
crony capitalism.
100.
Yeah, crony capitalism is exactly what we're talking about.
Let me get back to what I was going to say. This is pretty interesting coming out in Texas. What do you think? 10% of the Republican Party in Texas is Latino. Who do you think they're voting for in the polls?
Trump.
Yeah, Trump. Actually, this makes me makes me laugh. The Hispanic. Actually, when it comes to actual social, most Latinos that I know are very conservative socially. Actually, and I also cannot agree with a lot of progressives alienate me because I don't agree with the language. But actually, I legally came to this country and I legally became a citizen of this country. And it actually peeves me off that there's over 11 million illegal immigrants in this country that won't legally try and become legal citizens. And actually, I do think something should be done about it. How that should be done realistically and morally is another question. That's a big question. But, something does need to be done about it. And you can't have every Tom, Dick and Harry coming here and just staying here.
No. If you don't have borders...
I know my neighbors. I have 3 neighbors, right close. I mean, next door neighbor, right across the street, Hispanic families. And they are livid. They're so angry at illegals, getting welfare, because these are hardworking families that we're in, sort of a maybe upper middle class neighborhood, and these people are just angry that, and they might have come here illegally themselves, but they're not citizens. None of them are. But they're hardworking families.
Hey, we got to finish up, but did everyone see that? Share the last 30 seconds up there. It's yellow. Anybody see it?
Yeah.
Up on top, up on the forecast for Super.
Up on the top.
Go ahead and everyone hit that. Maybe write something. Say meetthevoter.com.
Yeah, I do. But
you have that yellow thing on there, Jonathan?
Share the last
30 seconds, and it'll share the last 30 seconds that's up on Twitter and give some good exposure as we finish up the show. That's one of the new tools, and it'll show it on your Twitter. It's really nice. And I'm going to have fun tonight because we sort of got off track, and I want to get back on. I'm only at 20 minutes.
How come it's not sharing it? I clicked to share now, but it's not doing it.
Click it. It should come up. How about you, Bob? Did you click it and find anything?
Oh, well, yeah. Well, actually, what I do is I put something for Jonathan. I put meetthefascist.com.
You're a pseudo-fascist. You're a pseudo-fascist.
Well, we've got another show called Weekly Scam on Friday night.
I mean, if you think Trump's a fascist, it's because of his Democrat leanings. That's why.
Sam
No,
is back
actually, I
up
don't.
listening.
And Bill, actually, hopefully, Bill would agree with this statement from day one. Bill, have I not compared Mr. Trump to Mussolini?
Yeah, but wasn't there some other writings about it? But you definitely gave a good comparison.
You know, and his actual language, his mannerisms. If you read any of the biographies of how Mussolini gained power through populist.
Yeah, but it is also Italy, though, and that form of government which changes quite often can do that.
We are talking about the late 1920s, early 30s, Bill. It was a slightly different situation. But the actual use of language, populism, utilising the media, actually Mussolini in these early 20s and 30s was a socialist, actually. And he actually was the editor of one of the largest socialist papers in Italy. And then for just personal gain, he actually became the head of the Italian fascist party. It's quite interesting, and I think you can see, you can basically see Mr. Trump. I
just agree. Trump? He says political correctness needs to be thrown aside. Again, like I said, I got the definition for you to find out what fascism is. By a dictator controls the lives of the people, in which people are not allowed to disagree with the government. He's against political correctness. Political correctness is the government controlling you. He's blowing that up. So, yeah, he has a strong personality. Why are you afraid of a strong personality? If he's right, if he says the border, our military, our veterans need to be taken care of, and he wants to put people back to work. Because he doesn't believe that. What is wrong with that? Why are you afraid of people working? They can control their own damn lives. They don't need you anymore.
You finished?
That's what it's all about. Freedom. Freedom.
No, it sounds like Jonathan likes him because he liked Mussolini being a socialist. Doesn't Jonathan say he's a socialist? He's for Bernie Sanders.
Socialism leads to fascism. That's why we don't like socialism.
I don't quite know how to deal with that statement, actually, Craig, because National Socialism. I also like to say this to you. My grandfather died at the hands of German Nazi fascism. He was executed in a German concentration camp. My father won the Military Cross, the second highest award that any serving soldier fighting fascists. His two brothers died in Italy fighting fascists. So I kind of resent anybody.
Well, why would you want to step into socialism then? Bill's right. It totally leads to fascism.
That kind of appalling, stupid statement leads to fascism.
Oh. If you can't defeat a man in his argument, don't worry about it. You can always call him a name. That's all you got to do.
When Americans describe a Christian socialist in that tone of, what they're really saying is that you're a Stalinist communist. It's just ridiculous. It honestly is absolute madness. And the reason why you say that...
When you become a socialist state, what are the blacks going to do? They're already primed for it. They're prepped to say, okay, now is a chance. We're going to take down white America, and they're going to go to war, and we're going to have civil war, just like in Germany, and just like in Russia, and just like in China.
That is such a racist statement. That is such a racist statement of the highest order. I really don't know what to say about that. I really don't know what to say to that.
I'm telling you what I've seen. I see it in prison majorly, and the Hispanic community there too. Those criminals are going to take over.
Well,
they will. You give them a green light, and they're going to go to war.
Well, you know, they've been well trained. Yeah. That's the whole that's the whole problem of prisons, is that they become better criminals.
The prison is a fascist organization. It totally is, 100%, and it's run by Democrats.
In California.
Yeah, in California,
you make Bob look like a liberal.
Bob, do you guys still have the endorsement?
What?
Endorsement?
Endorsement
What say his name? Does he still have the endorsement of correctional prisoners or correctional officers?
Oh, the CCPOA?
Yeah.
Yeah. He does.
He knows he knows the tricks. Craig knows the tricks.
I wouldn't take a job at the CCPOA. That's probably one of the most dangerous jobs out there. You put yourself in the middle of gangs and people.
Well, Craig did that. Craig can tell you about it.
Yeah. I did that for 25 years.
That's why I said thank you for doing what you do. It's no fun being the one that has to watch people like that.
No, but they're hooking the Democrats quite a bit too. You know that they've switched parties.
Well, why do they want felons to have the right to vote? Why do they want illegals to have the right to vote?
Yeah, that's why.
That's what it boils down to.
Give them power.
Yeah.
And as soon as they empower these people, we're doomed.
Yeah.
How could you even? Why would you even laugh at that? This isn't Sweden.
You're such a racist society. You're so racist. You don't even know how racist you are.
Reality.
And I'm not talking about just blacks and Mexicans. The whites in there are going to do the same thing. It's going to be war. And we are going to be the ones that are suffering from it. It's going to be a war between the blacks, Mexicans, and whites. It's going to start in the criminal community first because it's already there. And then it's just going to break out from there.
Too much Mad Max. That's your.
I've already seen it. I've been there. I've seen it.
Could it be?
The only thing that
I'm not being disparaging here. Could it be a fact that for 20 years, for understandable reasons, you didn't quite mix with the best element of society, did you?
He's pretty. I don't know how he's.
Yeah, I did.
No, I mean the other people you're talking about, they're not the most sweet, loveliest group of people that you could mix with.
They're not. They're not. And California's been letting them out. California let 30,000 of them out.
My sister.
Now,
Craig, you consider anybody. You know, I did some research after our discussion, and the facts do. Unfortunately, the facts do not meet with your personal opinions because you classify anybody. You only classified 3,000 people in the whole of the California penal system as non-violent criminals, and the facts do not support your statements, unfortunately.
Well, AB 109 and Prop 47 is just turning those people right around. I mean, heroines don't just get a ticket for that nowadays. And it's some really bad stuff going on out there.
I've made it quite clear, but I'm not going to say it would solve everything because it won't. But I would legalise all drugs. If people want to take drugs, let them get on with it, as long as they don't engage in criminality.
But if that guy in his pursuit of his drugs has to stick a knife in your back to get the money to purchase his drugs, then you're not going to like it. But if you did. If perhaps happening to someone
like I said, the last time I was on here, I had a prisoner over here at Renown Hospital, and Jerry Brown was running for the governor, right? So the guy's like, "Oh man, I hope Jerry Brown gets elected." I said, "Why?" And he said, "Well, because I'm sure he'll let me out of prison." I said, "Well, why? What was your crime?" He said, "Oh, I killed a guy." I said, "Oh man, he's not going to let you out of prison." He said, "No, wait a minute." He said, "I only did it when I was drunk." He said, "I went to 7-Eleven, picked up a bottle of whiskey, and I was walking out, and somebody hit me up for $300 that I owed him." And he said, "We got in a little tussle over it, and I broke the bottle on the cement and then slit his throat and killed him."
As you do, don't you?
He said, "I'm sure Jerry Brown's going to let me out of prison for that."
Let's face it, folks. You American. Let's face it.
He's in there.
Let's face it, folks.
I classified criminals for 2 years in the prison system, and it's very, very difficult to classify a level 1. They're all in
give
there
me a
for
break.
violent
Look,
crimes.
Let's face it, folks.
But level 1 are really
Let's
dangerous.
face it.
They're
Let's
dangerous.
face it.
And it's not that they're convicted of violent crimes. It's because they have a rap sheet a mile long. It's like 9 pages long, and there's so many violent acts on that rap sheet that they're not convicted for.
No, 200.
Because the courts are like, we're not going to put this guy on
the
trial.
fact is, Craig,
It's
it's not the
$400,000.
200
We'll just let him plead for a 7-year prison term.
That's the bloody point, Craig. And let's be frank about it. We are talking about America, and you just love your violence. You just love it. You love your guns. You love killing people in general.
That's right. I love my guns and my religion.
You're a bitter clinger on it.
And that's why I live in a peaceful community right now. Because there's a lot of guns.
Let's be frank about it. You love violence and you love glorifying it. You do.
I hate violence.
You love it. You go around.
Can we all just get along?
Can't you be like the Canadians?
No, we've got a family of 30 people right now. I don't love violence.
Right.
I love my family. That's why I live for my family.
Yeah.
No, I don't live for violence.
Are you saying that? Are you really saying that American society is not drenched in the storyline that violence solves problems?
No, violence doesn't solve problems.
No. America's drenched in the philosophy that religion solves problems.
Well, I disagree. I think the fundamental story of American society is, if you want to solve a problem abroad, you bomb them. If you want to solve a problem of a country that you don't particularly like, you invade it. And if you don't like a problem with your neighbour and you're in a poor area, you freaking shoot them. That's it, Ricky. That's the storyline, isn't it?
That doesn't happen. Are you kidding? There's people on my street that I don't particularly like. I'm not going to go shoot them. I go out and walk the neighborhood and talk to them. I want to be friendly with them. I want to make friends with them so I can influence them. That's what we do as Americans.
I was probably
Bob, you're quiet.
Now,
sorry, bomb them.
Bob is quiet.
Bomb them. That's all.
Well, I just actually listening because
you can't influence, and they're going to take your stuff. Yeah, then you got to deal with them. I mean, unless you want to just roll over and give it to them, just wet on yourself.
I agree. They say you could have peace at any moment. All you have to do is surrender.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you got to be a bit more.
Yeah.
Your freedom.
You got to be a little bit more pragmatic than that. It depends what they're after, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But I want to be serious, because I want to quantify this basically with you, Craig, because I think last time, and I want you to say this again. I think you told me there was about 270 to 280,000 in the California penal system, and out of that group, you classified that only 3,000 of them could be released to society. All the rest you classified as violent, hardcore criminals. Is that?
No, we talked about levels 1, 2, 3, and 4.
How many of those 270 to 280 would you classify as extreme, hardcore, violent criminals?
Oh, extreme hardcore violent criminals. There's 8,000 at High Desert State Prison. There's about 8,000 at Pelican Bay. Those are the two. Let's see. Folsom's got probably 4,000 of them. So what do you got? You got 8, 12. I would imagine hardcore violent.
These are serious.
San Quentin doesn't have violence. San Quentin's got death row, so there's 800 there. I would say there's probably, maybe 3,000 hardcore.
And I need to quantify
3,000. Maybe 30,000. 30,000 hardcore violent criminals that you would never ever want associated with anybody.
So
the rest of them are programming prisoners. You put them in prison, they program. They go to work every day. They only stab each other once a week or something like that. But it's not. They're not hardcore killers, though. They're they discipline their own people by stabbing them, 30 or 40 times. But they don't. It's not to kill them. It's just a disciplinary measure.
Well, apart from that,
but they're not going to kill anybody. They don't just go after people just to kill.
I don't think I would agree with you, but if they're prepared to stab somebody 30 times just for disciplinary, I still would classify them. They've got a slight problem. So maybe we should add a few of those to the 30,000. So let's be generous.
Hey, Jonathan, we need to wrap this up tonight.
Yeah, well, I just want to finish this because I just want to finish this.
2 more minutes.
So you add the other. Let's be generous. You add another 30,000 to the 30,000, so 60,000. So you still got another 210,000 inmates, right? All right, in the system. So are you really trying to say to me, I've just given you another 30,000 that just do a bit of stabbing during the week. I've just added another 30,000 to your list and bumped it up to 60,000. So are you really saying the other 200,000, you classify them maybe as not hardcore, but pretty violent? Are you still saying that?
Yeah, I'm still saying that, sure. For sure. Yeah, you wouldn't want those people out on the street for any reason at all. I mean, you got your child molesters. You can't let them out anytime, And then you've got let's say, okay, so, here's a guy that was programming on the Sierra Yard. And like I told you, his violent crime was when he got drunk in a bar, he punched a lieutenant and killed him. So it was like an involuntary manslaughter. So, and he was a good worker, man. He was my lead man on the yard crew and tremendous, awesome guy. But you wouldn't want him out because if he gets drunk, he gets violent. So how do you deal with that?
Well, there must be some of these 200,000 are just in there for bloody burg.
That's them. That's the 200,000. They're people that are just
doing carjacking, and a bit of bloody burglary. They can't all be bloody psychopathic bloody muggers, can they?
They're not. They're just dysfunctional people that, to a degree where you just don't want. Somebody's going to get killed again if they're in society, either by a car wreck. Because they just can't handle drugs, they can't handle alcohol. They're going to kill somebody, and they've already shown it to the courts over and over and over and over and over. So that's it. They're done.
The recidivism rate is 90% if you let them out anyway. So if you let them out, they're going to commit crimes because there's no jobs in the state of California or through most of the country.
That's even worse. Yes, that's even a major problem right there.
There's no jobs. They're going to commit crimes. So now one criminal can commit 100 crimes. You don't know how many.
I would say a lot of these guys, the people that I worked with. I mean, it's just like the kids when I worked in juvenile hall. If you had someone, if you could somehow jump in their pocket and help them every minute of the day, like you do in prison. So they're in prison, they're under the gun, and they function really well. They do. The majority of them in there. 200,000.
We don't even have that in schools nowadays.
Craig, do they ever get old, when they're kids and they get old and you release them and they're like just harmless?
Yeah, when they get old. Yeah, if they
get mature in some weird way.
Some of them get so tired. Yeah, they get old and they just don't want to be a part of it anymore. And so they program really well in prison, but they have a lot of status, so they,
80 years old,
really nice.
Tattoos hanging down to here, for God's sake. It doesn't look good, it just doesn't have that powerful look to it. Those aren't the guys you need to worry about.
We do need to finish up tonight.
I'm off, folks.
Next week, 6 o'clock. I'm going to take off one at a time. Jonathan, stay on. Take off. Hey, John, wait. I had a question. What was the question? Oh, Two questions on Bob. I wanted to ask Bob a question, and Jonathan, I think I don't have any questions for you, but we're all set right now. Yeah. So thanks, Bob. I do have a question for you.
Thanks for the discussion, Bob.
Thanks. I'm going to kick everybody off one. Bob, my question as we finish up here is Modesto B. I've been thinking about the Modesto B all the time. I know they're teeny and small, and they're they're out of money, and they were printed up in Sacramento, but they got to be dying right now with the political correctness.
I canceled my subscription 6 months ago. They call me pretty much once a week asking me, will I please take their paper? And I go, no.
They were the most politically correct organization you could ever had to the nth degree.
And that's the thing that's hurting this country. And as I talked about the fascism aspect, they control your thought. The one thing with Trump, whether you like him or not, where he'll stand on the border. And if you believe him, but all I know is 30 years people in Washington have lied to us. And
I've seen that. I think back when I ran for Congress, that was going on. The middle group. Nice steps.
Well, I just don't know if Trump's going to be against crony capitalism. I'm afraid of that. That's the one thing about him that I'm scared of, is that he's going to be a crony. Maybe he already is a crony. I'm sure he has lobbyists.
The only thing I can think of is it's sort of like when I went to the city council as a builder, I design build construction. And half the builders learned to hate me because I knew all the tricks of the builders. I wanted fair consistency across the city, not any favoritism. So maybe he'll understand that. I'm just thinking out loud. Maybe.
Yeah, but if you make things freer, the EPA right now is going to be destroying all these the clean coal burning factories we have in this country. And so who's going to end up paying that additional price for all those people back there when they no longer have coal? But yet they say it's because of the carbon footprint. But look what China's doing. We live in a world. We're in this little globe. Their pollution gets to us. So it's ridiculous. And I think that's what he'd be good at. He's not the best guy for to put in that position. But the bottom line is what's going on. It's insane.
It is crazy. It's going to. I think who knows what's going to happen to the parties. I think the Democrats appear to be much more controlled and part of the establishment than the Republicans right now. The Democrat establishment.
Well, the saddest part, and this, like I said, Hillary gets 90% of the African American vote. And again, I wish the African Americans would look at what the Democrat Party has done to their families, to their communities, to the whole society, and realize they're not a friend. And I think with Donald Trump, I think you'd find at least a friend who wants to try to put people back to work. Whether we do have to put some of these work programs out there, you're already paying the people for being there. You may as well put them to work, get something out of them, make them part, give them ownership in this damn society. And these people don't feel like they have a piece of pie. They got to have a piece of the pie.
One thing I think the right and the left, they both agree that we want the same things, just different ways to get there. And
I disagree. The left does not want the same thing. They want power. And if it means keeping people down, so they have their
support, Hernandez sometimes, when he's on, he really believes that, he believes that the socialism Bernie Sanders way is the way to go. Bigger government.
Well, like I said, socialism will be worse until you run out of everybody else's money.
He's a Chapman, and everyone. He said the professors all around him believe the same way.
Now, Craig, how old are you? How old are you, Craig?
62.
Well, I'm 62. I'm born January 4th, so that's you're a baby.
Yeah, November 28th. Yeah. So I'll be 63 this year, but
so you're a young
Craig,
guy. Okay, that's
Bob helped me in my first congressional race. He saw it all. He's probably my best. You know what? If I go back I would go back and just have. I know how to run races now. I think, and the key is to save your money and get targeted direct mail out and just win. I think honestly, if I had just a little bit of more money, if I worked another 6 months or even maybe a year, I probably would have run for Congress. I think the Congress and the congressional seat for an outsider could be won this year with direct targeted mail against Joe.
Yeah.
Because Joe is part of the establishment.
I think it's going to continue too, Bill. I think the next 2 years, you're going to see the same thing.
In 2 years? If Trump wins president, because things go in a cycle. They go like this. They go back and forth. Hey, one last question from both of you guys, the Republican side. Yeah. What do you think is going to happen to the Republican Congress and Senate in the next election?
We hold them both.
I hope it flips even more conservative, but we're so focused on this presidential race that we're ignoring what's going on with Joe Heck running. It's like he's a shoo-in because nobody's challenging him. Yeah,
it wouldn't take much. I think he could take him out.
I do too, but who's going to do it? It's like you can't get any press. It's all focused on the president.
Targeted mail, and you paint him as the establishment and the other candidate as the conservative, get things done guy. And you do it right.
Yeah.
It's direct targeted mail.
Yeah.
Let me put it.
You could.
This is the guy running for.
Like I said, me, Bill, since I ran the campaigns with you, I've always felt that, like I said, if you squeeze hold of that penny so damn tight, it doesn't allow the dollars to flow. I think
I think you waste. I saw Bill. Bill just ran out of money. Stupid campaign. Too many front-end consultants. Bill.
Who?
Oh,
yeah, too many. He put too many money. I had the highest end, most expensive consultants he could have. Dommy. Let's not record this. Record that. I did not mean to record that. Sorry, Don. I like Don a lot. I'm saying he had very expensive Republican consultants.
Yes, and he didn't need that. He didn't.
You can start early, but you just keep the campaign very inexpensive, and you build money slowly, and make sure you have enough money to print your first piece of mail. Then you can get the postage, which is easy to get once you get your mail. You get your next piece, and you do it like that, just like I did.
But if you focus on that one pimple that woman has, you don't see the whole beauty of the whole. It has
to be timing
picture.
too. You have to have right.
You got to look big picture. Signs out. Big picture, Bill.
And you don't need a lot of volunteers.
Big picture, Bill.
You know that. You don't need a lot of volunteers in a campaign. They're nice.
Big picture. Big picture. Like I said, always, if you talk about the small little things, that becomes the focus. You need to look at the big picture. And again, it's a message
on direct. But if you don't have any money and you can't get your message out,
Trump hardly focuses on any specific thing. He just says, "Let's make America great." That's the big picture. Everybody's like, "Yeah."
He talks about the Chinese and the Mexicans, the general philosophy about bringing American jobs back.
He talks about the manipulation of the currency and how that impacts us. And the bottom line is I think he'd be great for us now. Yeah, he's a good guy because he knows how you pick good people to do the work. The guy in the top, he's not the one that does all the work. They follow your vision. My vision is this.
Yes.
I'll get it done.
And he's got that. Yeah, he's got that.
Yeah, and I agree with that aspect. Like I said, I'm an establishment Republican. I've always been pretty much an establishment, except for the fact I'm a little bit moderate because I'm born and raised in San Francisco. But I think we need to get someone there that puts America first. I'm sick and damn tired of people so worried about all these illegals, and we're putting our priorities in the wrong thing. Like I said, in California, we're worried about transgender bathrooms and all the rest of this crap. It's idiotic. We need to focus on roads and things that really matter to everyday people. But we're getting into all this little stuff, and people want to ask about that. Does the KKK endorse Donald Trump? No. The two guys are thinking they might. I'm not sure if they were in Nevada or they were in South Carolina. The two guys in the Klan outfits, are African Americans. You can see they're holding the signs. They're African Americans. They're just trying to put that persona of racist and everything else, because that's how Democrats win the vote. They're going to go after abortion, same-sex marriage. Republicans are racist, and and that's the fight we're going to have. And I'm ready for it.
Yeah. And I'm afraid they're going to use the racist card on Trump big time.
But that's where you have those two African American young ladies who get out there and talk for him, and that young man, his son was killed by an illegal, getting out there saying he's the right guy. We need people to get out there in the community and say what it means to put people back to work.
If Trump would come out with some really good ads, and he could.
He's already leading the way. He spent hardly any money. Bob, there's a guy who didn't spend any money running.
But he got free advertising.
Well, his ground force was nominal. He had like one person in each state, nominal ground force. And Bush spent all the money.
Well, but Bush,
that's a good example.
The first time George W. Bush ran against John McCain, what I obviously was on W's side. I mean, I pushed to make him get there, and I used to attack the McCain people by telling them about McCain. Well, anytime you put anything in a box for 8 years, it goes stale. Now, that's a terrible comment to make, but it resonated too.
A lot of money didn't get anywhere.
McCain was a waste of time. Bob Dole was a waste of time.
Let this person on for a second.
With his 15% tax cut, and couldn't explain a 15% tax cut what it means.
Hi, Matthew. We're about to finish up, but we welcome on for a few minutes.
Hey, Matt, how you doing?
Win the primary?
Hey,
who's going to win the primary?
Talking about you. Now that you're here, we can't.
Republican and Democrat. Who's going to win the primary? You're not in Louisiana?
No,
you got the Saints behind you.
Yeah.
New Orleans? Okay. You got the
Nolans, yeah,
No,
Nolans.
it's Nolan.
Nolans. Yeah, my son's down there.
Nolan.
So who's going to win the Super Tuesday?
Shoot, I don't know, man. Probably Trump. I don't know.
Trump.
I would want Trump to win or whatever. So, what about you?
Hey, I do have
All
to
right,
go.
that's fine. That's totally
I do
cool.
have to go, Matt. I got to run.
Chilling.
Bob. Hey, thank you. Come
Hey,
back
Bill, does
every
this-
Sunday.
All right,
We're
yeah,
here to
I'm
talk
down, bro. I'm
politics.
down.
Come
Sick.
up. We appreciate it.
All right, later, man.
All right, thanks. Take care. See ya. Bob,
Bill,
gonna turn you off there?
does this sound any better?
Yeah, you should be using that. Let's hear it.
I am using
Yeah,
it.
keep it
Bill.
real close. Bob, you should be having that close.
Okay, I'm gonna try to do a. I gotta do a
Hey,
hangout
stay
with
there
my
for a second,
family.
Craig.
so-
I got a quick question to ask you about CRA.
Okay.
I'm going to say bye, Bob. See you next week, hopefully.
Bye, Bob.
Take care.
Asta, remember the Alamo.
Remember the I got to shut you out because
see you
I
later.
actually made you a guest.
All right, see you, man.
Matt, I will
sweet,
see
wasn't
you
it?
see you next week. Okay. Thanks. And Craig, CRA are they Tuesday? Why are they doing it the
Tuesday,
same
yeah.
day as Super Tuesday? I know it's all,
It's just
all
the
this
first
stuff's happening.
Tuesday of every month. Yeah, it is. Wow, what a night!
I was thinking about
Huh.
putting a little portal on the website. You know,
We should just go in there and watch the Super
no, what I'm
Tuesday
going to say though, just to do a
results.
quick demo, they asked me to come and do it, but just set up 2 stations and just put the portal on the website so people can see on the website if they log on their smartphones how it just pops up on the website.
Yeah.
No, this pops up
Cool.
live
Yeah,
on the
let's do
website
that.
if you have the code in there. So I was going to do
Uh-huh.
that on the CRA website.
Okay,
So
let's do
maybe
that.
have
Yeah.
you- I will teach you
Cool.
to learn to do all this stuff. I'll let you go. You got a
On
family,
Tuesday?
so I'm going to let you go. Hey, before I let you go, I want to make you a host, and I'm going to let
Let's
you go.
get there.
Okay.
This is my wife, Julie. She's like
See if
the
I met her.
most
Wait a second. I just
awesome
made a
woman
wait a
there
second. I got
ever
to. Hi, Julian. Get back. I just had something up, so I couldn't see you. Hi.
was. How about that?
You put up with him all those years,
Too big.
all those prisons.
Oh, terrible. But I had 9 kids. That was worse.
Yeah, Julie handled more incidents every day.
No, I
than
can't
than
imagine
I
9
did.
kids. How much work that is. We've had 3, and these 2 girls are amazing, but they're a lot of work, expensive. Love them, but a lot of time.
Yeah.
Okay, I do have to go. I'll see you, Craig. Nice meeting you, Julie. I'll see
Okay,
you
so
Tuesday.
we're going to get there at 5:30. Let's get there at 5:30.
Yeah, we'll
we
set
can
it up.
work on
And
some stuff.
I don't want to stay
We
too
can
late because I got to do. I'm producing a show a day. I got to produce content. I got to work my tail off, so I can't stay too long.
Okay. Well, we'll just get there early, and you can teach me some stuff.
I can
and
teach you
we'll
like
get
each
it.
month. Just take our time. I do have some politicians
Yeah.
approaching me now, like how to set up the basic like Twitter, YouTube, all that account. And I want to get a couple
Yeah.
of key ones. So it's CRA is a good place, or Republican Assembly in
Good.
NVRA.
Yeah. It's the WCRA.
Why I like
Washoe
that really
County.
confused me. WCRA, is that it? WCRA.
Yeah.
Because
Washoe
in California,
County
it's
Republican
called
Assembly.
the CRA, the California Republican Assembly.
Yeah, just the
Right.
CRA. California
All right, take care.
Republican
See ya.
Assembly, Yep.
Bye.
All right.
Well,
Right.
folks, that's the end of the show. It's going to be a heck of a show to edit. I want to thank everybody for coming up. A few to the left. It's a long show. Politics is unique. Take care. Bye-bye.